Hello, and a warm welcome to this ICAS on-demand webinar. I'm Chris Campbell, Head of Tax for Tax Practice and Owner-Managed Business Taxes at ICAS, and I'm pleased to be hosting this webinar. HMRC is trialling a new service at the moment aimed at helping mid-sized businesses called the Temporary Customer Compliance Manager, or tCCM for short, model. The service provides temporary support to businesses experiencing considerable difficulties in managing tax affairs, businesses in crisis, businesses facing uncertainty, and businesses planning for growth. To help explain and help us understand how this could impact you and your clients, I'm delighted to be joined by Lucy Day and Tom Eyre from HMRC's mid-sized business team. Lucy and Tom recently wrote an article for ICAS.com on the tCCM model, and it's great to welcome them both here today. So without further ado, it's over to you, Lucy and Tom.
That's great. Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, we're delighted to be here today. Thank you. And as Chris said, we're going to be delivering a webinar today on our mid-sized business temporary customer compliance manager model, or we'll call it tCCM for short today during the presentation. As Chris said, my name is Lucy Day, and I am the mid-sized business customer support lead. And I'm joined today by one of our temporary customer compliance managers, Tom Eyre. In our webinar today, we're going to share with you an overview of the tCCM model to include why the model was introduced, how you can use it, details of cases that may or may not be suitable for a tCCM, as well as sharing with you some anonymised examples of real cases where tCCMs have supported mid-sized businesses. So, why was the model introduced? Well, just a bit of brief background on this. In mid-sized business, we have a large and diverse customer population. And whilst we have a number of compliance initiatives to support this population, such as upstream, guidelines for compliance, and one-to-many, our research indicated that we were missing a more tailored customer support option that provides that whole customer approach. So we launched a trial of the tCCM model in January 2022. And this tCCM model provides temporary, time-limited support to mid-sized businesses. And as Chris said, this could include businesses who are experiencing considerable difficulties in managing their tax affairs, businesses in crisis, businesses facing uncertainty, as well as those who are planning for growth. Towards the end of 2022, work began on a comprehensive evaluation of the model, and this work's still ongoing and is due to conclude in the summer of 2023. We intend to use the insight that we gather from this evaluation to inform what our future model looks like for tCCM. But one really important thing to point out, though, is that even though the evaluation of the model is still ongoing, we're continuing to accept new requests for tCCMs from mid-sized businesses. So I'm going to hand over to Tom now, who's going to provide further detail on what suitable cases for tCCM might look like.
Thank you, Lucy. The tCCM is all about taking a customer-centric approach, understanding various component parts, including the impact of HMRC's interventions, changes in the business, impact of new legislation, and delivering support where and when it's needed. tCCMs are appointed for a short agreed period of time, which will be determined by the nature of the tax issues that the customer has. With this in mind, if a customer is going through a key life event where they require support for a period of time, then we may be able to support this. We may also be able to help where the customer has undergone significant growth, or where there are multiple inquiries, or inquiries have been ongoing for a long period of time with no resolution. tCCMs are facilitators, having an oversight of all current HMRC interventions and tax issues that impact you, the customer. This will include working collaboratively across MSB, including tax specialists in different regimes to identify, develop, and progress appropriate cases. However, this will not involve replacing the tax specialists who will continue to work any compliance intervention. The tCCM will simply work alongside those tax specialists to help find a resolution. We may also be able to help with other potentially complex issues. We will also coordinate cross-tax inquiries to provide a more succinct and effective service for the customer. This process is not set in stone, and this list is not exhaustive. A few more examples of cases where the tCCM may be able to add value are where customers who have raised issues during a compliance interaction that are outside the scope of the caseworker's checks, customers trying to normalise or amend their tax affairs after compliance activity or changes in their business, customers where inquiries have not progressed to the timetable that they'd have liked. The tCCMs can also add value to any new customer groups to our population. Customers that encounter a lot of communication from HMRC or who have regular contact with ongoing issues. As I said, these are just some of the areas where you might want to consider tCCM support. Now, we're unfortunately not going to be able to provide a tCCM to every customer who requests one. Where we're unable to make the offer, or your query doesn't quite require the ongoing support provided by a tCCM, we'll point you in the direction of a dedicated support via the customer support team, who are able to assist with queries where there isn't already a designated route for support within HMRC. We're continuing to see increased traffic to that team, who will either resolve the customer's query within that team, or they'll find the right place in the department to review it. You can find this team by typing MSB Customer Support Team into your internet search engine, and you'll see the page Get Help with Tax Issue as a mid-sized business. Okay, so on this next slide, HMRC's mid-sized business has a population in excess of 300,000 customers. So as we've said, whilst we'd like to be able to offer the tCCM service to every customer who wants it, we're just not in a position to do so. So a very whistle-stop tour of three main channels in which we currently source the work. We've got proactive cases. We're trying out a wide range of methods to source the customers who we feel may benefit from tCCM support. To do this, we use HMRC data to identify which customers we think may benefit, and we'll write to them with an offer of a tCCM. We've been targeting businesses experiencing rapid growth, mergers and acquisitions, life events, or who may have multiple tax interventions who we feel may benefit from our support. We don't risk these cases customers, but we do consider complexity, and we also consider customer support requirements with cases from across the whole range of the MSB population. We can only rely on the data provided to us until we hold those initial conversations. Direct requests. We consider requests for a tCCM made directly by customers or through their agents. These can be submitted by using the MSB Customer Support Team, which can be found by Googling HMRC Mid-Size Customer Support. And Chris will provide you with a link that you can send out to your membership. And finally, through internal referrals, tax specialists within HMRC may refer a customer to us when they feel that the customer would benefit from an allocation of tCCM. For any mid-sized business agent referral, HMRC will issue a decision on whether a tCCM will be offered within 15 days. Following this decision, a named point of contact will arrange an initial meeting with either the referring agent, the mid-sized business, or both, whichever is the preference of the customer. We're not able to accept, as I said earlier, we're not able to accept every application for a tCCM. Decisions will be made based on resource availability and the nature of the request. A rejection does not mean an application can't be made at a later date. Where a tCCM is not appropriate, a mid-sized business can continue to rely on support by accessing business as usual routes. Again, as we've said, if you access MSB support, mid-sized customer, there's plenty of support there. And finally, on this slide, if a mid-sized business identifies a need for additional support through future life events at a later date, then you're welcome to apply for a tCCM at a later point. Just making one application doesn't mean you can't make any future applications. Lucy.
Okay, so throughout the trial of the tCCM model, we've actively sought external feedback to help us evaluate and improve the model as it's being built, and we're continuing to do so. And what you can see on the screen there is just a snippet of some of the direct customer and agent feedback that we've received. Now, the feedback that we've received includes very positive commentary on how the tCCM model has helped things such as improving communications with HMRC, improving working relationships with HMRC, and also resulted in time savings for the business. But overwhelmingly, customers have really valued the opportunity to have a single point of contact within HMRC whilst going through particularly complex life events.
As we've said, the tCCM may not always be appropriate for each business. So we tried to put together here a list of areas where there is an expectation that the business as usual routes will provide an answer, or it's an area where HMRC's expectations would be that external private practice guidance has been sought. So the list goes whether it's a single head of duty tax intervention. Well, actually the issue is there's a dispute with that HMRC tax specialist. That's not something where a tCCM would be able to help. Arguments around interpretation of specific tax matters. For that to be happening, I would have, you'll be dealing with the tax specialist on that, and it's not something where a tCCM would intervene. Routine queries around that we feel are clearly answered within the guidance. We're not here for tax planning, so they would already be there. Business as usual routes for queries when standard response times haven't been missed. The tCCMs isn't an offering to assist in queue jumping, where issues are taking an extended period of time. We may be able to offer support there, but if HMRC aren't missing the publicised timelines, it's not something where we'd be willing to intervene. A policy query where a response is being awaited, again, for any policy query you'll be given a time frame, and the tCCMs won't intervene in that area. Clearance applications, that's something where we'd be expecting you to external private practice guidance to be given. Tax planning goes without saying, as a HMRC office, we're not here to provide tax planning. And where discussions are progressing at the expected pace. We're aware, obviously, with some compliance interventions, they're long-winded, they do take a lot of time, but if they're progressing as we'd expect them to be progressing, it's not an area where tCCM would look to be getting involved. Okay, we're now going to showcase some anonymised examples of cases where a tCCM has had involvement and added value to those customers. So this first slide shows a high street retailer who had multiple HMRC inquiries, each of them with their own contact points, both with HMRC and within the business themselves. The tCCM managed to quickly ring-fence the compliance activity, ensuring that stakeholders on both sides were kept fully informed with the progress throughout, and managed the requests for information, resulting in a large reduction in administration for the business. The steps the tCCM took allowed the Chief Finance Officer to understand the full scope of HMRC interventions, some aspects of which up to that point they simply weren't aware of. The Chief Finance Officer stated that the single point of contact has allowed them to keep on top of HMRC interactions, increasing the business compliance moving forward. This next example, there's a business who had complex interactions with various parts of HMRC that required a joined up approach. The impact of this has led to a delay in repayment, with obvious impacts on the business being able to run their business as they wished. The tCCM organised the information internally, allowing for the information to be received by the correct area in a timely manner that allowed for the repayments to be issued, which in turn improved the cash flow for the business, allowing them to operate their business as they wished.
So in this case, the business approached HMRC for a tCCM as it had recently undergone rapid expansion with multiple acquisitions. The tCCM worked with the customer to create a timetable or a project plan to work through the multiple issues, and having this there provided accountability for both the customer and HMRC as well, and gave realistic expectations for when the matters could be dealt with. The timetable also allowed the tCCM to align internal resource to make sure that colleagues would be available at the right time to offer the right level of support when it was needed the most. And in this case, the tCCM relationship helped minimise any possible areas for delay but it also allowed numerous matters to be resolved, including things such as repayments being released to the agreed timetable, prevention of penalties being incorrectly issued to dormant entities, as well as ensuring we could provide targeted assistance with a double taxation treaty passport. And on this next case here, it was a HMRC tax specialist who referred the business to the tCCM team because there were delays in progressing the inquiries with impact for both the customer and for HMRC. The customer was in the process of being acquired by a large overseas business, and it had grown rapidly in recent years through several acquisitions. There were companies being struck off, but unfortunately these were being objected to by HMRC because of unknown outstanding debts, and this was causing delay with obvious impact to the customer. So in this case, the tCCM worked with internal teams to rectify this and ensure that all the outstanding payments were made. And again, in addition, the tCCM was able to ringmaster through internal collaboration a number of other issues, including the registration and deregistration of VAT groups, group payment arrangement issues, and Section 458 relief claims. And the result of this, through having that centralised point of contact, meant that the tCCM could bring all the issues together into one place, and HMRC had significantly reduced the administrative burden for the customer. So that brings us to the end of the slides that we have in our webinar today. We hope that our presentations provided some clarity over the tCCM role and which mid-sized businesses might benefit from the tCCM service. You can see again at the bottom of the slide here a reminder of how to make an application for a tCCM through our customer support portal. And you can also use this portal to ask any questions that you may have about the tCCM model too. So we really do look forward to hearing from you, and thanks so much for watching the webinar today. Chris, I know you've got some questions for us, so we're really happy to pick those up now.
Yes, thank you very much, Lucy and Tom. That was a really excellent comprehensive coverage of the tCCM model, and I know that will be of interest to our members. You mentioned some issues with the capacity of the system, and that it might not always be possible for an application for the tCCM to be approved in all cases. What's the current level of capacity? Have you got capacity in the system at the moment, or if anyone was applying for something today, could they reasonably expect to receive help under the tCCM model if it was available, if they qualified?
Yeah. So we always consider the individual circumstances of the business, but we have got a relatively small team at the moment, and so we've got to prioritise those requests. But at the moment, we do have capacity to take on further customers. And what we would always say is don't sort of use that sort of as a reason not to get in touch with us. We can always have that conversation, you know, on a no names basis, even if anyone's got any initial questions about whether they might be suitable for the model. Again, just use that customer support portal to get in touch with us, and someone will call them back.
Excellent, thank you very much. And how do you decide how long a tCCM could be allocated to a business for?
I'll take that, Chris. So ordinarily, as part of the initial conversation that we'd have with a customer, we'd ask them to identify the ongoing issues that they've got with HMRC, anything that they might project happening in the next 6 to 12 months. From there, we'll put together a timetable, and at that initial meeting or very shortly after it, we'll have an agreed exit strategy whereby we'll help you through X, Y, and Z because we think they're in our remit, and you know, A, B, and C might not be. That's not to say that obviously we appreciate businesses change quite quickly often, so it might be that the road signs that we've highlighted change, and therefore we will flex with that. We're at no point aiming to work with a customer and then just cut them off because an agreed date is reached. If it's still right for the relationship to continue, it will, but we'll just look to agree an extended period.
Okay, thanks. And you mentioned in your presentation that there was a scenario sometimes where it might be a business might not be eligible for support on its first application, but it would be possible if things changed in future to make a future application for the tCCM. Great.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously the reasons why we reject that case could differ. It could be resource on our side. It could be, you know, that we don't feel we can provide huge amounts of support for the issue that they've signposted there. But if either that continues and they do really feel that they need that support, they can make that reapplication. Or, as I say, you know, things within business change quite quickly. So we're not to say just because you made one application at one point it can't be done. As Lucy said, we'll have a conversation, let's have a chat, and it could be that what's written down doesn't quite marry up with exactly what the issue that we're facing is. So again, our advice would be please just contact us, let's have that discussion, and we'll look at exactly what we can offer at that point.
Great, thanks. And in this time of when businesses will receive letters that may be claimed to be from HMRC, how would one of our members, if they received a letter about tCCM, know that that letter was genuine?
So if they have any sort of concerns at all about the letters that are received, if they reach out to the customer support team via the portal, they'll be able to confirm whether that letter's come from our team or not.
That's great. And last question from me. Obviously, this is being trialled at the moment, and from what I can hear, it sounds a great initiative that could benefit many of our members. What do you see the next phase in the tCCM project?
So at the moment, Chris, we're still rolling with the model while we're doing quite a comprehensive evaluation, and we're bringing sort of together lots and lots of pieces of insight and analysis that we've looked at over the last few months while we've been rolling out of the model. And we're using that to shape and inform what we think the next phase of the model looks like, and we hope to have some sort of certainty on that in the summer of this year, and once that evaluation work is completed.
That's great. Thank you, Lucy and Tom, for both giving us a great presentation and also coping admirably with all my questions that I've been asking on the end.
No, you're most welcome. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
And please remember that you can keep up to date with all the latest tax and other professional news, including latest information, guides and resources on ICAS.com. You can access technical support through the ICAS Technical Help Desk available through the Contact Us section of the website. This covers audit, accounting, tax, practice support, AML and ethics. It only leaves me once again to thank both Lucy and Tom for joining us this afternoon, and of course you for watching this ICAS webinar. I hope it's been helpful to you.